The world is a pretty crazy place right now, isn't it? From war in the Middle East, crime in our cities, and frankly, a lot of young folk not being able to find their way, the world feels pretty terrible right now. But luckily for you, I have the one solution. You want to know the real reason you can't find a girlfriend, land a job, or buy a house? You want to know the real reason for crime in our cities? You want to know who's here to come and replace your white country? That's right. It's the blacks and the illegal immigrants who are here to destroy your country. Or at least that's what groypers who swallow Nick Fuentes' balls would have you believe. The truth of the matter is that incel chuds online want you to believe in an ideology of pure hate and retardation. The ever-growing alt-right's ideology primarily cares about two things. Number one is the Great Replacement, the idea that whites are being genocided in primarily white countries through immigration and declining birth rates. And number two, race realism, the belief that race is not an arbitrary line carved in the sand, and in fact, races of people are different from each other, and that is seen through IQ, crime statistics, and culture. Unfortunately for this ever-growing far right, it's just complete bullshit, and I have the evidence to prove it. With the rise of online figures like Nick Fuentes, you may have heard your friends use some of these talking points that I lay out in this video, and here's how you debunk them. Let's jump into the Great Replacement.
James Fishback, what is the Great Replacement?
The Great Replacement is a coordinated effort by both the government and large multinational corporations to replace the founding stock, the heritage Americans in our country, with cheap foreign slave labor. The Democrats want it because they want voters. A lot of the Republicans want it because they want cheap foreign labor, but they share the same commonality, which is they have utter contempt for the people who built our country, and we will never be replaced.
But before we do that, do you like debating? Do you have any disagreements with left-wing politics or anything I say in this video? Are you a lefty yourself? Well, check out my Discord down below to debate and discuss different ideas. I'm live streaming and debating you. Yes, you. Join my Discord down below, and as always, thank you for watching. This is by far the most controversial topic I've ever covered on my channel, so let's crack this sucker right open. The basic theory of the Great Replacement was coined by gay writer Renaud Camus. While he is the originator of the theory, it's not really because of him the theory has become popular enough to where the likes of Tucklenuts feel the need to speak on it.
In other words, you're being replaced and there's nothing you can do about it.
The theory is really only popular because of two events. Number one, the Christchurch shooting, and number two, the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. This is where this garbage belief entered the right-wing zeitgeist.
Anger in New Zealand after the man behind the Christchurch shooting in March pleaded not guilty to multiple charges of murder and terrorism. The self-proclaimed white supremacist is accused of shooting dead 51 Muslims in 2 mosques.
He appeared in court in Auckland via video link from a maximum security prison and smiled as his lawyers read out not guilty pleas.
In 2019, Brenton Tarrant shot and killed 51 people during Friday prayer inside of mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand. While the shooting is very tragic and depressing and is one of the worst hate crimes ever committed, the shooting itself is not the reason I bring it up. This shooting, along with the manifesto he uploaded with his killing spree titled The Great Replacement, has served as the inspiration for numerous other terror attacks and brought the Great Replacement from a primarily French audience to more English-speaking countries. I will primarily be focusing on America because I live there, but all of my arguments apply to Western Europe as well. Let's go full incel chud and look at this manifesto. It's the birth rates, it's the birth rates, it's the birth rates. If there is one thing I want you to remember from these writings, it's that the birth rates must change. Even if we were to deport all non-Europeans from our lands tomorrow, the European people would still be spiraling into decay and eventual death. Every day we become fewer in number. We grow older, we grow weaker. In the end, we must return to replacement fertility levels, or it will kill us. To maintain a population, the people must achieve a birth rate that reaches replacement fertility levels. In the Western world, this is roughly 2.06 births per woman. How is this possible? Mass immigration and higher fertility rates of the immigrants themselves are causing this increase in population. We are experiencing an invasion on a level never seen before in history. Millions of people pouring across our borders legally, invited by the state and corporate entities to replace the white people who have failed to reproduce, failed to create the cheap labor, new consumers, and tax base that the corporations and states need to thrive. In 2100, despite the ongoing effect of sub-replacement fertility, the population figures show that the population does not decrease in line with the sub-fertility replacement levels, but actually maintains and even in many white nations rapidly increases, all through immigration. This is ethnic replacement. This is cultural replacement. This is racial replacement. This is white genocide. This is where we find the three main parts of his argument and the arguments that most race realists will make when they talk about the Great Replacement. Let's tackle each one of them one by one. We have birth rates, economics, and culture. Let's start with the birth rates. As Tarrant correctly points out, white people in white countries do not have enough kids for replacement rates, which means absent immigration, the white population will decline in these countries. Doesn't mean that whites will become a minority, but it does mean that they will hold a smaller and smaller share of whatever demographic pie there is. But if it's the white people not having kids, doesn't that mean it's a problem with the white people? Why don't white people have kids as much? Why does anybody in the West, regardless of race, seem to not have kids anymore? The race realist will tell you that it's the Jews who are making you infertile so you cannot have them white babies. The real reason that Western countries tend to have declining birth rates is because Western countries are richer. Because of that fact, the opportunities in Western countries are far greater. For many people in these countries, there are many different things that make life fulfilling. There are just so many things to do, like working, playing video games, reading, socializing, seeing movies, getting jacked. It honestly doesn't matter because no matter what, there are just different kinds of things that people are prioritizing now over having kids. Even if you think that having kids will lead to a more meaningful life, which I do, it doesn't matter because clearly white people do not care enough to reach replacement fertility. Here's the other thing. The very same white people who complain about the problem are the root of the problem. There's a reason everybody associates 4chan, being an incel, and being far right. These are the very types of men that refuse to talk to women. These men will do literally nothing to even try and have kids. If the problem is the birth rates, go and have some fucking babies. The shooter himself didn't have any kids to fix this so-called problem that he points out. For the economic side of this argument, do you want to know the greatest way to prevent immigrants from taking your job? That's right, subscribing to my YouTube channel, smashing that like button, hitting that bell, and checking out my Instagram down below. Thank you. There is a claim that immigrants are being brought to white countries in order to continue economic growth, which is true. But is this a problem exactly? Is economic growth bad? You see, immigrants are truly the best thing to ever happen to an economy because not only do you get another consumer of goods, but you also get another producer of goods. Hey, Mr. Pellin, if a non-white immigrant comes here seeking a job, doesn't that mean a white native born is out of a job? Thank you, white hillbilly voter. But no, it's a myth that immigrants take jobs because the myth lies in the fact that our economy is a zero-sum game. These immigrants come here and create jobs as well. They start businesses and they also employ other native borns, leading to our economy growing even more. We also have a natural rate of unemployment around 3 to 4%, which the US is at 4.5% thanks to our Lord and Savior, Donald J. Trump. But during regular times when we've already hit the natural rate of unemployment, we have other jobs that we still need fulfilled. And these immigrants let us do that. And illegal immigrants also pay a shit ton into Social Security and Medicare, but they don't receive a single benefit. So you tell me, are immigrants really a drain on the economy? Because to the average conservative voter, an illegal immigrant is really Schrodinger's immigrant. They somehow are taking all the jobs, they somehow are buying all the houses, but they also are welfare leeches. While the other two things are a complete losing case for the race realist, and often they'll actually bite the bullet on those two issues, the next one is allegedly the only one they really care about. They care about assimilation into a culture, and they fear that non-whites from third world countries are unable to assimilate into Western culture due to things like language barriers, religion, etc. Now, luckily for America, our immigrants actually assimilate pretty well. We literally get the hardest working immigrants, ones who likely understand English somewhat well, and our immigrants likely are non-religious or Christian, which kind of maps onto the makeup of our country. They effectively adapt to our society. Now, the underpinning of Western society is fundamentally secular. While that might be a hot take, it is true that our institutions fundamentally do not care about your religion, and by that very same rule, your race. So we have to point to something a little bit better than simply somebody's religion to understand this issue. Let's look at everybody's favorite subject. That's right, crime. This is a big problem for many people who claim to be race realists. They believe that immigrants commit more crimes than native native-borns and hence should not be let into the country. And this is just completely not the case. In America, legal and illegal immigrants commit way less crimes than native-born citizens. Now in Europe, the story is a little bit different. While plenty of studies do point to increased immigration not causing crime in Europe, other studies on individual countries have different conclusions, finding that immigrants in European countries may commit crime at higher rates. So if immigrants in America commit crime at a lower rate than native-borns, but immigrants in Europe may commit crime at a higher rate than native-borns, what's the cause of this difference? Why do we see that difference whatsoever? This is where we have to talk about race realism, IQ, and the cause for crime. Is race real? This is a tricky question. In many ways, it can be real. For example, skin color, hair texture, eye color, many different realities of race exist. And people of the same race generally look pretty similar. And that can be mapped onto different patterns to help us define what race is. But by and large, race is a social construct. Here's why. There are a ton of different genetic variations among people. For example, people have different hair colors, eye colors, different earlobe shapes, but nobody bothers to make generalizations or track data about different characteristics like those. We don't really know the crime differences between people who have attached earlobes and people who don't. We also don't know the crime differences between people who have blue eyes and people who have brown eyes. But for some reason, we do categorize those differences based on race. We do track crime differences depending on somebody's skin color, but we don't for those other things. Why? It's because race is a social construct that historically has been made to sow division among people. It is not a biological reality whatsoever. Biological differences like hair texture and skin color are not conclusive about behaviors. White supremacists will often point to IQ differences between whites and blacks and make characterizations around that. White people generally have an average IQ around 100, which is of course the regular standard average. And black people generally have an IQ around 85. White supremacists will also point to IQ disparities between white countries and African countries in order to highlight this point even more. But here's the fatal flaw. This neglects the economic reality between white and black communities and European and African countries. These IQ disparities are not caused by genetics or how somebody is born. In fact, looking at that and trying to tie it to race probably means you're low IQ yourself. It seems to me a far better cause for these discrepancies is the fact that the economic class that you're born into has a far greater bearing on your future outcomes and your likelihood to commit crimes or have a proper education. Is the reason African Americans today remain poorer than whites because of truths in race realism? Or is it based on the fact that historically African Americans were slaves for hundreds of years, then had their economic mobility stifled under Jim Crow and redlining, and 3 generations later we're supposed to expect that they should have acquired intergenerational wealth in that time period? No, because the reality is if a system has been out to get you for hundreds of years and then it stops, it doesn't all of a sudden return to normal. The truth is, if you're born poor, you're likely to end up poor. If you are born in a poor community, odds are that you do not have access to proper education. And when for the vast majority of American history, one racial group was literally enslaved and not given the chance to build intergenerational wealth like white communities have, yeah, that's the cause of the IQ discrepancy you see in America. It stems from a systemic problem in our past. It has to deal with the equality of opportunities between the rich and the poor. Let me think. African countries tend to have a lower IQ. It must be race and not the fact that African countries were historically exploited for resources and slaves by European countries, and no singular country in Africa was actually given the chance to develop. Jeez, I really wonder what it could be, guys. The blatant truth is, any IQ discrepancies you see between societies have to do with economic realities. It is a problem of poverty and history, not a problem of genetics or race. This is also the reason why American immigrants commit less crimes when compared to European immigrants. American immigrants primarily come from Latin American countries. While some of these countries do have crazy governments and insane cartels that basically run everything, many of these countries are not explicitly hostile towards their citizens. They only come to America in search of a better life. While European immigrants who go to Europe are of course searching for that better life as well, European immigrants immigrants are primarily coming from places like the Middle East, where every other country is an oppressive regime. These are people who are fleeing from war. They are refugees who have been through an incredible amount of trauma. It has nothing to do with race, nationality, or religion. It only has to do with the environment that people are raised in. Anybody being victims of crimes, of course, horrible. This is not a justification for why European immigrants may commit crimes. It is simply an explanation that has nothing to do with race at all. What was the point of this stupid ass video? This is the point. Genetics matter way less than the environment that somebody is raised in. While we can pick out individuals who excel handsomely and come from shitty situations, this is not the reality for most people. Differences that we see in race have nothing to do with race. They only have to do with environment. So in conclusion, if you're a race realist, you're probably just a racist, you're probably low IQ, you have fallen for fear politics over factual realities, and you also should unsubscribe. But if you're not a race realist, let me tell you some motherfucking news. Subscribe and smash like on the video. Thank you for watching. Turn on post notifications and send this video to all your friends. Please join my Discord below to debate me and other people in my community. I'm trying to do them every Friday and upload them on here so we have some more content coming out. Follow my Instagram too for more content as well. I really do have a ton of banger videos if you're a sissy liberal. Pellin out.